All right, let's shift gears now and bring you this discussion. Have you ever found yourself Googling or trying to do a quick search on social media to know more about someone that you've actually never met? In this day and age, you expect some kind of, intentional narrative or clear narrative that shapes the perceptions of who these people are. Some experts call this personal branding. Let's speak more about this. Joining us in studio is founder of People with Purpose Consulting, and Nontuthuko Mhlungu, I beg your pardon, who's with us today in studio. I need to get that branding right, because that's what we're going to talk about. Great to have you on the program. Thanks for popping by.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and you and I are already, going off on our own conversation off air, right? Because there's just so much to unpack when it comes to understanding this idea of personal branding. But let's start with the basics. A lot of people associate branding with inanimate objects, things that can grab off the shelf. So what do we mean when we speak about personal branding?
Personal branding, right? Because now we're bringing it to the self. So it is the practice of closing the gap between how you perceive yourself versus how others perceive you, or how you want them to perceive you, right? So that is personal branding. So what do you want to be known for, right? And before we get there, that's the final piece of the puzzle. And if we're talking about youth, because it is Youth Month, the foundational part of that is self-discovery. So who are you? Where do you want to go? What are your goals? And the best way that we do that in the workshops that we run is looking at your interests, your goals, your values. What problems are you passionate about solving? And then that starts to shape, your goals and where you want to go. Once you have that in place, then you can start to be deliberate, because that's what it's about. It's about having a deliberacy around how you're communicating your value and expressing it to the world. You're adding value. That's what I always add. It's about bringing value. It's not about shameless self-promotion of yourself.
Yeah, we'll come back to that in just a moment. I'm so interested in the name of the company, though, People with Purpose. Great alliteration going on there. But, the concept of purpose, I think, is one that dribbles older people still, right? This concept of what am I about, actually, and what am I trying to get to? How do you help people try to answer that question?
So again, to go back to what I said, I think one of the, measures or things that you can use to start identifying that is the things that make you come alive. Like, what are the things that you find yourself tinkering at for hours on end, whether it's your interests or things that you're good at and your strengths. I'm not saying those things are your purpose, but I definitely think they start to point you in the right direction. They start to steer you in that direction. I help people to, navigate that, but I can't tell you what your purpose is.
Right.
And I think it's a big thing, for the youth, to have some kind of meaning and feel like in the work that they're doing, that they're contributing in a meaningful way. You're not just sitting at a cubicle and going about your day. So that's why I think the concept of personal branding becomes important. It does help you to start to think about, what is your purpose and how are you contributing to society in a meaningful way?
Yeah, I think the best way sometimes to illustrate these things are through examples. I'm sure you've come across people who've actually mastered this concept of personal branding. Any names that pop to mind for you at the moment?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is Theo Baloy, the founder of Batu Shoes. I mean, he's done exceptionally well as young as he is. I think there's a lot of young people that look up to him like, hey, if he can do this, then I can also chart my own path and also follow my my path. So he's definitely one person that I think does it exceptionally well without having met him. Just go to any one of his platforms, whether it's LinkedIn. I follow him on LinkedIn, whether it's Facebook, Twitter. But he's done an exceptional job at curating this brand. And I don't think it's not that he's not that person. It really is just him. And so he's deliberate about the content that he shares, and it's really inspirational for a lot of young people.
Sure. Something you mentioned that's important, that's really him. The sense I get is that authenticity is the name of the game.
Yes.
If you're going to get this right.
Yes. Your authenticity, I said to someone else, we were chatting, it's a bit of a buzzword now, being authentic. And it's true, but someone else, I think it was Trevor Noah, he said, authenticity is context-based, right? So you're not going to show up as yourself, or all of yourself rather, all the time, everywhere, with everyone. The way I show up perhaps in the office is not the way I am at home, is not the way I am at church. And this is not to say you're being fake or not your real self, but you got to look at the environment and the context within which you're operating, which will then inform how you show up. Still being true to myself, but acknowledging the environment and the context that I find myself in. So yes, be authentic by all means, but it's for you to decide how much of yourself you want to show up as online, how much of your personal life, for example, you want to display for the world to see. So be authentic, but I think be mindful and of the environment that you find yourself in.
Yeah, goodness. I mean, as you say that, I'm reminded of the different type of content that's out there because of social media, right? There are people who have, a very affluent kind of image, right? That's what they portray for whatever brand they're trying to associate with. And then there's an interesting kind of strand of content of people, and the term escapes me, perhaps you're more familiar with it, who are showing their life as it is, where they wake up in their one-bedroom house as they get ready for work, example, and people have really resonated with that.
I love that you say that,
which is interesting for me because not so long ago, we thought of what you can put online as a specific kind of content, and I think people are starting to challenge that a bit. Exactly,
because I mean, how many of us can resonate with this really flashy lifestyle? And if that really is your lifestyle, good for you. But if you're trying to be something that you aren't, people are renting private jets, and I can give you many examples to portray something that they aren't. A lot of us don't resonate with that, let's be honest. So people are just being comfortable with their modest lives, and we're resonating with that because that's themselves, that's who they are. So that is definitely what we're starting to see. There's a move in that direction where people are resonating with real and genuine and, dare I say, authentic content that's being shared.
Yeah, absolutely. If I'm sitting at home now as a young person, genuinely trying to wrap my head around where to start, I wonder what the advice is, especially because for people who are starting now, it almost feels like they've missed the train. So many people's brands are already established. They've become such formidable names and forces. Who am I who's going to start today, and when am I ever going to get there?
With my 2 little followers.
You know what I mean?
Because followers are the currency. So just start. I mean, it sounds a bit cliche. If you have, everybody has social media, that costs you nothing. There's another quote that I really loved. One of the creators said, social media is the new society, and the people are the personal brands of that society. Some are just more deliberate about plugging in and contributing to the society, while others aren't. They're just sitting back and being passive. So whether you are plugging in or not, the society is there, and it is happening with or without you. So I would say, I mean, a simple thing is just go and have a look at your social media if you don't have one, and I can't imagine there's someone who does not have a social media account. But if you do, just start to think about the things that you want to put out. How do you want to share? What value are you bringing? How are you contributing? And start to share more of that. In so doing, you'll start to attract the right opportunities, collaborations, partnerships, networks, and like-minded people that share similar interests as you. So just start with maybe your social media.
Sure. A lot of people might be encouraged by that, but I think sometimes they might miss the fact that that's still work, right? Because it's one thing putting out content, it's another being consistent at that, because that's what attracts the numbers, the traction, and hopefully some of the collaboration.
Yes, you do. You don't want to be like this person who maybe shares something once every 6 months. You do want to, and that's where the deliberacy around personal branding is. You're being intentional now. You're not just saying, well, this is who I am, take it or leave it, but you're being deliberate to share content and adding value and plugging into this community that you find yourself in. So you do have to be deliberate, whether you're sharing once a week as a start or once every 2 weeks, but just start to create a rhythm around how often you do share.
Yeah, and how much of that needs to reflect what people see when they finally do meet you? I mean, you walked into the room, I think there's already a communication that you're sending, right? And I think it would be a bit jarring if what we see in front of us
is completely
reflective of what you're putting out there. I mean, that kind of coherence, I'm sure, is crucial.
It has to be there. There has to be a level of consistency, definitely. And again, it goes back to the foundational principles of personal branding. Sometimes I like to call it personal power, but it is about just, this is who I am. I like to believe whether you're encountering me online or in person, you'll find more or less the same person. So it shouldn't be, wildly different.
Personal power, I've never heard that before. Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, I like to refer to it as personal power because when you say personal branding, as you said at the beginning of the interview, people associate it with an inanimate object and it's packaged and it needs to be neat, and so personal power, I guess, is just another way of saying it, and it really is just like, what is your power? What are you bringing to the world? Who are you? Who do you want to be?
In many of these instances where people are successful, I've found there's a great story that is associated with a brand. And I wonder if that's something that people should try and think about, you know,
Yes.
what is your story?
Yes.
What are you bringing forward?
100%.
And how do you package that?
100%. Because we all have a story,
Yeah.
and we think that other people's stories are more inspirational than our own, but that's the very thing that makes yours unique. No one has you're the niche.
Yeah.
You're the ultimate niche, and so your story is unique, and, you know, don't shy away from sharing who you are.
Absolutely. All right. And I hope with that we got a sense of your own story. Thank you very much for coming in to speak to us.
Thanks for having me,
Really do
Ayanda.
appreciate it. There is a lot of food for thought, right? And there you have it. The aim is just to start. Hopefully, by the time you get to the end of whatever journey this is, you'll be grateful that you started today. Once again, our guest is Nontuthuko Mhlungu, who's joining us there on personal branding, part of People with Purpose Consulting. The agenda, as I get my personal branding underway, continues in just a moment.